Uh, Good evening, and thank you for joining today's session and for making time to be a part of this. Hi, Berida. Hi, Oluwalola. Hi, Adeshino and Toby. Excuse me. It's so great to meet again this week. I don't see Ibrahim on the call. I hope everything is all right with him. All right, so sorry for delaying the session. It was originally meant for 6, but we had an internal thing at work and by 6 also, so we had to push to 7:15. So today we're just going to be talking about something sorry, that is very crucial and very important, but oftentimes people fall short at, and that's like CV and resume writing. Will have instances where people give other people their CVs to write, which is not an entirely bad thing. But the thing with that is that people don't really take out time to actually even look through what was done for them and to make sure that it aligns with, the career story that they want to take. And so today we're going to be looking at, how to actually put a CV together by yourself. I know that there are certain tools already that help with that, starting with ChatGPT and the numerous AI tools out there, all thanks to technology and advancements every day. But even in the midst of, all these, AI tools and all of that, the need for personalization and for human touch is still not, out of vogue. And so even when you make use of certain AI tools to maybe optimize your CV or to write a new one, there's still a need for you, to first of all, even understand where or how to edit from. And for other people who want to, entirely maybe write it themselves, for me, I actually use ChatGPT to refine what I've done. Also going to be looking at, how to get started with that, the do's and don'ts of CV writings, and then we can take questions and we'll call it a night so everyone else can just go and enjoy the rest of their weekend. So I'm going to be sharing my screen right now. Just let me know when you can see my screen. All right. All right. Please, can you see the blue screen? Someone can unmute and let me know. Anyone? Toby?
Yeah, I can. I can
Okay.
see it.
All right. Thank you. So we're going to be starting from the CV. So we're going to handle, first of all, CV do's and don'ts. Then we'll go into different types of CVs or different CV formats, and then we will now actually examine what a good and well optimized CV should have and should look like. The first thing when it comes to CV do's, which are like guidelines you should actually adhere to, and guidelines you should follow when it comes to CV is, to decide on the kind of CV that you want to have. So there is the reverse chronological, there's the functional, which is also called a skills-based CV, and then there's the combined. The most, advised to use is the reverse chronological, and I'm going to explain each of them in details. So the reverse chronological is what most of us use that has, your name, your job summary, and then a list of all your experience, starting from the most recent, to the oldest, right? And that's the one that most people use, and that's the one that most recruiters recognize. And there are still other people that use a functional CV or a skills-based CV. And for this type of CV, you're not just talking about your experience per se, we're just talking about how all the skills and the expertise that you've amassed or you've had throughout your professional career fit into the job role that you are about to take. So for this one, you're not just talking about your job history. What you are showing and where your CV actually starts from is the skills section, right? All the tools that you need, all the things that you are good at. Maybe if you're good at project management, what you've done with that, the skills that align with that, and all of that. And the combined is also something that makes use of the both. It has a combination of the skills, and then it has a combination of reverse chronological. But right now, and what most people recognize and what most people use is the reverse chronological, which has all of your work experiences, your achievements, what you achieved at the role, what you did, and all of that, starting from the most recent to the oldest, right? And then the second thing, once you've decided on a CV format, the second thing your CV should have is a header, right? Of course, your CV should have your name, and then it should have your contact details. And then when it comes to contact details, there's a mistake that some of us make, especially when we are applying to global jobs. We are in Nigeria, for example, and our country code is +234, right? But most often when someone says, hey, can you share your number with me? We start with 090 or 081 or 080 or 091 and all that. When we are applying to global jobs, we forget that there is a global context involved. And so we go on to share our contacts with that 090 stuff, right? So just to be sure and always to be safe, actually, whether you're applying to local jobs or you're applying to international jobs, your contact details should always bear your country code. So, for example, if you're Nigerian and you're putting your contact details, what it should bear is +234 and then the rest of your numbers. So this makes it easier for any recruiter from any part of the world to recognize your country code and be able to call you if need be. And then your header should also have your location. I apologize for the noise you're hearing. And your location doesn't have to be so detailed and so granular, excuse me.
No, choose room. We can't hear you again.
Yeah. Sorry, I had this thing. All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
All right. Yeah. So I was talking about location and I was talking about the fact that when you are writing your location, there's no need for you to be as granular as possible. For example, maybe you live at 10 St. Cole Street, Lekki, Etiosa, Lagos, Nigeria. You'll not put all of that, for security reasons and just to ensure that maybe your CV doesn't end up in the wrong hands. You can simply put Lagos, Nigeria, and that's that. You don't have to be so granular to share your street address, your house, downright to all of that. You can just share Lagos, Nigeria, and you're good to go. And then your header should also have a link to your portfolio. And please, there's a mistake some of us make when we are attaching our links to our portfolios. We forget to make it clickable. We do not attach it as a URL and we just to write it out there. Always ensure that the link to your portfolio is clickable so that if a recruiter needs to see your portfolio, they can simply from your CV click the link and then need to see what they need to see or whatever the case is. So don't forget, your header should have your name, your contact details, which should start with your country code, your location, just your state and your country, and then a clickable link to your portfolio. And then the third thing a CV should have is an objective or career summary, right? You don't just write your name, location, portfolio, and then you just jump into work history. You should have a career summary, and a career summary can be in two folds, right? For people that are just starting out or entry level, your career summary can be I am an astute whatever. Your career summary should just share what you're looking for out of a workplace or what you're looking for your next role, right? And then for someone who has had a bit of experience, your career summary should focus on the things that you are adept at and the things that you are good at, just primarily your expertise, what you can do, and then the value that you bring to a business. So remember, you should have a career summary for someone who's just getting into the field, a little bit about yourself, and then not my name is this, is that. You can say I am an analytical or whatever data analytic professional, data, I don't know, whatever data role is, looking to work with organizations that are blah, 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 blah. Basically just stating out what you want and then the role you're also, going to, the value you're also going to bring to the role. And then for those that have a bit of experience, just talk about your expertise, the things you're good at, and then how you're actually also going to add value to the organization. And then the important bit of it is your work experience, and it should have the company name, your role or position, your start and end date. So when you started at that role, and when you stopped working at that role, and quantifiable experience. So you might just be asking, oh, what if I'm still working at the company? Then there's no need to close it. You can start maybe July 2022 to present, right? So even if you're still in that job whilst job hunting, you can still show that it's present. And then a mistake people also make when they are putting in their work experience is just to talk about their responsibilities without quantifiable achievements to what they've done in that role. So remember that the goal of every business is to make profit. And you have to show them that you are able to use your skills and your experience to help them achieve business goals, of which profitability is one. So if you're a data analyst, it's not just enough to tell us what you did, as a data analyst. You should also tell us how you were able to use, your role to help meet company goals. So did your data analysis skills show them a gap in the market? Did it help them understand customer behavior better, thereby improving their customer margins? Did it help them understand, marketing? Did it readjust their marketing? Did it readjust their brand, positioning or product positioning and all of that? So it's not just enough to state your responsibilities. Anybody can state that. You also have to state quantifiable achievements, and then do not be bogus about your achievements. It's so easy for us, people say a lot that Nigerians have numbers problems. And I agree. And I look at some of the old copies of CVs I have, and I made that mistake. So I'll just say, oh, increased following by 12%. How I arrived at the 12%, I know not. Although I know that, by the time I joined, at least from my first job, and by the time I left, a lot of things improved. But I wasn't qualifying it. I didn't look at data to be able to write that CV. So you might write those things and you might get into an interview with someone who is, very particular about numbers, and they quiz you and they ask you, hey, how did you arrive at this number? And then you don't have, a solid response to give them, and that could just disqualify you or whatnot. So even when you're putting your quantifiable achievements, ensure that you're speaking from a place of data. Of course, this is a data community, and we know that of course, I think Stairs Business will say, in God we trust, everybody else bring data. So ensure that you're speaking from a place where you have your data in handy, and you're able to defend it if the need arises, or if need be. And then another part of things that you should have in your CV is, relevant skills and competencies. So from the hard skills are like skills that are very particular to your role, and then downright to soft skills. Soft skills like ability to work in a team, your leadership skills, your writing, and communication skills, and all of that. And of course, qualifications will always set you apart. Feel free to add it. This is your CV. Remember that you're competing against a myriad of people you don't even know out there. So impute the relevant certifications that you've done that can set you apart. And if you've noticed, certain jobs will put out, job ads, certain companies, and then they will add, oh, this needed or that needed. Certain certifications or trainings they want, their prospective employee to have had. So if you have those already, just like imagine someone in finance not saying that, hey, I've taken ICANN or I've taken the CFA, exams. These are things that show that you've done the work, you understand the work to a very large extent, and you're able to actually deliver. So whether you've done trainings, boot camps from your community, certain other professional licenses and certifications, ensure that you always put it in your CV. All right. And then what not to have, what to not have on your CV. So the person is to avoid the use of too much fluffy words. I wouldn't say you shouldn't entirely use it, but don't, just scatter it across words. Words like savvy, strategic, passionate, creative, motivated, focused. We're not saying you shouldn't use those words, but just be careful about how you use them. Don't overuse it on your CV. Let it not be that for every bullet point, related to your work experience, we're seeing the same words over and over again. One thing I do is, even if that word is something that keeps coming up in my CV, I use Google and I use the dictionary, and I find synonyms that can describe that thing better, but in another language. So use power verbs instead, like, built, organized, administrated, spearheaded, led, oversaw, planned, orchestrated, and all of that. And then the second thing to do is that when it comes to your CV, your date of birth is not needed, your sex isn't needed, your place of origin is not needed, marital status, and all of that. And you might think that these are small details, but bias exists whether you want it or not, or whether you choose to see it or not. And so you're just trying to ensure as much as possible that these things do not stop you from getting the job. There are certain companies that don't hire married women because they believe, or they think that married women always have lots of family responsibilities and obligations. And then depending on the role that you're applying for, the role might require maybe lots of travel, sometimes extra time at work, and that's your dream job. That's what you want. By the time you put your marital status, you might just be shooting yourself in the foot. So your best bet is actually, to remove those details from your CV, just to ensure that you are not shortchanged at any, point in time. And then people also, make the mistake of adding their pictures. Nobody cares, man. Like you don't need to add your picture to it. When you get the work, your co-workers will definitely see your face, whatnot. And sometimes the danger with this is that right now companies make use of this thing called ATS, applicant tracking system, to pass and also, to select CVs. Imagine a job that has 3,000 applicants. A human being or a recruiter can't possibly sift through those CVs. So they make use of ATS to make it, easier. And if you have these photos or too much decorations, just like the last point, also I'll take it together, too much, necessary designs and fonts, it might, bypass ATS and your CV might not be shortlisted. So these are the things to just avoid, just to ensure that you're not shooting yourself. All right. And then something that is a fact that you should bear in mind is that there is no one size fits all to writing a winning CV, right? So I can't say, hey, this is the right way to write it. This is the wrong way to write it because different things work for different folks. If you're very active on Twitter, you see that today someone will say, this is what a HBS alumni used to land a job in big tech meta. And then next thing you see, somebody will bring out another, format and tell you, this is a thing that got 10,000, Stanford graduates a job into Amazon. And there are different formats, there are different contents and all. And if you're always looking at it to determine what is right or wrong, you might be confused, right? So different CV formats work for different people. There is no wrong or right CV. But as I shared in the previous slide a few minutes ago, there are certain rules and parameters that should just be in place so that your CV is well optimized and good to go. All right, so we talked about the CV format. Just to dig into it a little bit more, this is what a reverse chronological looks like. So it starts from your most recent experience down to your older work experience, and then the skills-based CV, of course, does not talk about your work experience. As you can see, it just talks more about your knowledge in certain domains and expertise, and how you applied that knowledge to some of the jobs that you've had, and how that skill or that expertise or knowledge, ties into the role that you are applying for. But most people do not actually use that. So it's just in your best interest, to combine, to just use, sorry, the reverse chronological, and then, the combine that makes use of the two. All right, and this is more like a digging into what a header should look like. Once again, we said that it should have your name and whatnot. You don't even need to add this back end or software engineer. It's okay if you want to add it, but it's also okay if you want to remove it, maybe it's just so you don't maybe limit yourself or whatnot. But also just remember that your name should be bold and your name should be, if you're using font 12, your name can be maybe 14 or 15. It shouldn't be too golden that it becomes a headache for whoever is looking at it, but it should be golden in a way that it stands out because that's the first thing on your CV. And then, as I said, I told you, you don't have to be granular about your address. Lagos, Nigeria works. And then you can also see the country code. And then once again, always ensure that you put your email address. So you might be applying to a global job and someone, maybe the recruiter in Portland or Australia, might not be able to put a call through to you because of charges and all that. And this is like a technological age. We are in the digital age, and the quickest way to reach anyone, aside from social media, DMs, and all that, is your email. Sorry. So always ensure that your email is correct and your email looks professional. There's no need to be using the email you opened when you were in secondary school, maybe red devil fox 102 at gmail.com. It comes across as very spammy, and a recruiter might see that and just think it's a bot or is a spam or whatnot. So always ensure that you use professional names and it's sweet and simple. And then a link, your LinkedIn link or a link to your LinkedIn profile if that's needed. But that's also up to you and up to choice. I don't have mine there, but you should also have your portfolio link, especially if you're in certain industries like marketing, especially if you're a content or product marketing person. If you're a data analyst, if you're in the data industry, you're a designer, or you're a software engineer, always ensure that your portfolio is together and you include it in your header. All right. And, an objective and career summary, as we talked about, just a statement that communicates your career goals, such as the type of industry or job you want to work in or the skill you want to build. So your career summary shouldn't be a whole ass book, right? It should just be simple, straight to point, in a way that whoever is reading it will grasp or understand where you're coming from and where you're headed, stroke what you're looking for your next role. So I'll usually advise that your career summary shouldn't be more than, 4 to 6 lines actually. And it should just be a short description of your qualification, and it should explain why you're a good fit for the role, and you could include your achievements, experience, education, and skill. Always ensure that you have an objective or career summary, and it shouldn't be a large paragraph. It should just be between 4 to 6. Remember, nobody has ever gone wrong with simplicity. So always ensure that you keep it simple and don't use verbose words that will be hard for a recruiter to read through. Remember, you don't even know if the recruiter reading through your CV maybe has domain knowledge of your field. So use everyday words that people can understand and everyday words that make sense to a recruiter. All right, and then work experience, as we talked about, right? I already said that it should be quantifiable achievements and milestones that you achieved, right? So you should be able to put, numbers to it, as we can see, 33% increase in user purchases, trained 60 plus staff and all not, 45% increase, 7% under budget and all that. But be careful. Do not just throw numbers around. Do not just throw numbers around. Make sure that your numbers are straight and correct, and that you are also getting your facts straight. And then the next thing is your skills and competencies. Again, as much as these details are very important for a CV, the structure of your CV is also very important. I've seen CVs where people don't use bullet points. I've seen CVs where people don't use consistent um, fonts. I've seen CVs where people don't, use bold, whatever for skill session, for their experience and all that. So always ensure that there's consistency across everything. If you're using bullet points to talk about maybe what you did for a job, when it also comes to skills, maybe if you're talking about different skills and competencies, always ensure that you use bullet points where necessary. Again, don't make the mistake of using it where it isn't necessary. Just make sure that you use it in a way that it's easy on the eyes, easy to read, and easy to understand. And the essence of bullet points is not just because you want to use it. The essence is to streamline what you've written and to make it look arranged and well easy to read for whoever will come across your CV. So always ensure that you include your relevant skills, your competencies, and all the things that you are good at in relation to the role that you are applying for. If the things you're good at, for example, does not relate to the role, there's no need to clog your CV because you want to make it look longer or whatnot. Always ensure that from work experience to responsibilities to achievements to your skills and competencies, that they align with your entire career journey and the job that you are looking to apply for. All right. And then the great one, education, training, and certifications. And ensure that the certifications again are relevant. There's no need to have taken maybe a HubSpot marketing class. Maybe when you started your career and you were trying your hands at so many things to be able to determine which is best for you. And then now you're applying for a data analyst role and you're including a HubSpot, marketing certification. There is no correlation. I don't think there are any transferable skills in those certifications. So don't just put certifications for the sake of it in a way that it confuses the recruiter. Always ensure that the professional certifications or trainings that you are including in your CV also tie back to your entire, CV flow and your entire professional or career, story. And if also maybe you've not taken a certification also, but maybe you've paid for it, you can simply also write it there and you can include in view. But don't just include in view when you're not actively, in the process of taking that certification, because recruiters are going to ask, and you're going to again put yourself in trouble when you lie on your CV simply because you want to get ahead. So even if you've not taken it, maybe you've paid for the course and you're in the process of studying and you need to apply for a job before the date of the exam, you can always include that it's in view so that when you're asked, you can be able to defend that. And then this is what a good CV, looks like. As I said, there is no hard or fast route to this, right? This format, there are different formats and whatnot. That this format is good does not mean the other format is bad. What makes a good or bad CV once again is the do's and don'ts you have on yours, the structure, the way you make use of white spaces, your continuity and consistency across design and fonts, and then how you present your CV. And then from the two examples we have, you can see the name, and then you can see location and all those things we talked about that should be on your header. And then we can see links that are hyperlinked. And then this person added languages because maybe they are applying to a job that needs, extra knowledge of other languages that you are good at. But this is something that can help you get started. And this is something that you can use when it comes to writing a CV. So I think this is it. We can take questions at this point. I'll look through the chat box. I see some questions. Oh, okay. Toby was responding. All right. So does anybody have any questions, or maybe you want to share your CV so that we can review it together on the call? Anyone? Anyone?
Yeah, I have a question, please. Good evening.
Sure.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Thank you so much for the class. I really, really appreciate. So lately, I've been trying to apply for jobs, remote jobs, and it's just the phase I am currently is more like test run to see how it actually works. And I think maybe my CV is not well formatted or not well grounded yet. And this has actually, although I came late to this meeting, and since you said it is being recorded, or probably you're going to send the file to us or something, if there is a PDF file, and we really appreciate. But my question is this: you made mention of something like if you're applying for a job, you don't actually need to like include things that are not necessary for that job, or that are not just now. Does it mean that each time I want to, let's say I am a data analyst and maybe I'm also a developer at the same time, and I'm also a data scientist, because that is possible. So now, is it that anytime I want to apply for each role, I should have different CV for each role, or I should edit my CV each time I want to apply for the job? So that's my question. Thank you.
All right, Hassan. Thank you for asking so clearly. Thanks. So what I will usually advise is actually someone can have a very firm grasp of data analytics and be a developer. For example, I have a friend who is a business analyst and who is good with data analysis. He also codes, he's a software engineer. He also knows how to use non-code tools, and he's also a project manager. So all of those things. But the great thing about it is that his role as a business analyst needs all of this. So when he's writing his CV, he has all of this in one place. But the other thing is, how are you able to tie all this together? And I've gone through his CV, and he's able to show how all this tie together and how it helps him execute his role perfectly and flawlessly, right? If you're not able to show the correlation, then don't join the both of them together. Because if you're not able to tie it together, someone might just be looking at your CV and be like, okay, what is this person good at? He's saying data analysis. It's also saying software developer. Which do I choose? Which is he actually good at, right? So you can combine the two, but you actually have to combine it in a way that it makes sense, in a way that they overlap, in a way that someone can see that a software developer who has firm graphs of data analytics is able to make use of his data analysis knowledge to build certain software and whatnot that tracks, that measures, that does this and that. So if you're good at both of them, you can have them in one CV. But again, your job is to show how they all tie back together. If you're unable to find that, cutting edge or that intersection between the two roles, then by all means separate your CV so that you don't shoot yourself in the foot. And separating your CV might be a hard job, but one thing I found that works is to have a master CV. So your master CV is that CV that has all the things you've done over time, right? All the roles, or maybe even the ones you did after NYSC and all. And then from that master CV, you can have duplicates, right? For each job role that you are applying to. So from your master CV that has both your data analytics and software development, you can simply copy and paste and then build out different resumes for the different roles, right? In a way that maybe if you see a data analyst job, you can apply because you have a CV that pertains to it. If you see a software development job, you can also apply because there's a CV that pertains to it. So again, TLDR, if you can tell the story on your CV in a way that it's easy to see how these two roles combine and what you were able to achieve with the knowledge of these two roles in all the jobs that you've done, then you have like an edge over people, to be honest, because employers are looking for people that have skills that are transferable, and skills that intersect, and skills that can go, hand in hand to make work easier. But if you're not able to see how you use both of them, or how these two skills or expertise tie back into each other, then separate each other. First of all, have a master CV that contains all the things you've done. And then from that master CV, build out, a separate CV for your software role, and then a separate CV for your data analytics role, and you're good to go. I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Do we have any more questions? Berida, Stephen, Iremosele. Do we have any more questions before we go? Or anything you want to share, or even your CV? Does anybody have their CV right on the call and they would like us to review it together so that you can see areas of improvement and all of that? Does anybody have that? Does anybody want to share?
Yes,
Hi,
I
good
think I
evening.
can share mine.
Okay, sorry.
All right.
Should I
Share?
should I do
You
that?
can share. Yeah. All right, Hassan. I think I gave sharing permission, right? Let me see. Yeah, you can share.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Any problems, Hassan? Or you're trying to get it?
Yes, I'm trying to get the file. Sorry.
Okay. It's totally fine. It's fine.
I think it should be in 1, 2. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, you're right on point.
Okay. Come on. Can you see this?
Yeah, but it's a phone, so it's a bit. Can you zoom in? Is it possible to zoom so I can see it? Yeah.
Maybe like this.
Ah, Hassan, your TV. Where do we start from? Where do we end?
So there's a story behind this CV. So the thing is, I cannot call this my CV, or I'll say I just want you to help me to review this one, because I will say I have not built a CV yet. So there was a time somebody asked me to send a CV to him, and I do not want to tell the person that I don't have a CV, because I am busy learning and building at the same time. So
Yeah.
so the person asked me to send the CV. So I just picked a friend's CV and I just edited it. You see even if you see the highlight and everything, justification is not really okay. Maybe if you can review this, then maybe with that I can come up with mine.
Yes, you need to. All right, this is scattered. As I'm looking at it, my eyes turning.
Sorry.
Okay. It's fine. We all have to start somewhere. But always, if you're learning, always ensure you have it. That's the first thing. Portfolio, I know, is something that takes a little while to come up, but always just have a CV, to be honest. Right from when I was doing NYC, that was the first thing I did, right? Because anybody can just ask you at the spot. And once you say you don't have, you will do later, you will just see as someone that is very unserious. I know how people say opportunities, might just come, and you just want to ensure that, even if at the end you don't get that opportunity, you didn't miss it, because you weren't exactly prepared for it. All right. So go back, don't scroll to that side. So the first thing is your formatting, not this using purple, use black, use pink. Nobody, it's unnecessary, right? The colors they sort of blend and complement each other, but it's a CV, and all this extra isn't needed. The first thing is your name, Hassan Aziz Building, should be at the center of your page, right?
Should be
So
at
it
the
shouldn't
what
be at
center?
the center. Yes, you should
Okay.
center it, and it should be more, shouldn't be the size of the font of others. So you can use Control B to bolden it, and then you can increase the font size. I can't exactly tell you a recommended font size, but it shouldn't be too big and it shouldn't be this small. So maybe you can make use of 14 or I don't know, 15, I don't know. Just it should be at the center, and then it should be more it should be bolder than this actually, right? And then this data analyst,
Okay.
Ilorin, Nigeria, your LinkedIn, your phone number and all. Seeing how they are scattered about around the page, what you can do is I like the icons that you use to indicate that it's LinkedIn, the icons to show that it's location and phone address. But the thing is that some ATS don't recognize icons and you want to avoid this as much as possible. So instead of just using these icons, maybe you can just use contacts, you put your phone number under this your name. So they can either be on the left hand side, but I don't really like using that because sometimes you can finish it and it scatters. So it can also be under your name in the center of the page, but in smaller font. So it will not be as large as the font of your name, but it should be the same font as the rest of your CV. So you can simply write location Ibadan, comma, Nigeria, right? LinkedIn,
Yes.
yeah. And like I like the way you linked it. That's a very like great point. Then you can also put just your first of all your email, which is the first thing someone would glance. So you also have to be very careful about positioning. What do you want the person to see first, right? The person wants to reach out to me. What's the first thing they will look for? My email, for example. Because that's where they will send you interview invite and all of that. So after your name that's in a bigger format, and even if you don't bold in it if you want, but it should be in a bigger, font, underneath it, the next thing can be email, then you put your email underneath it. Under it, it can be contact, and then remember, I like that you use the country code +234, and then the rest of your number. Then LinkedIn, you can put that, and then the last thing can now be location, Ilorin, Nigeria, because well, that shouldn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but you just keep that. And then, for example, if you're applying to jobs in Lagos, if you're applying to jobs in Abuja, or even applying, actually, let me even use local context, jobs in Lagos and Abuja, remove the Ilorin, Nigeria, because if a recruiter sees Ilorin, Nigeria, they will just X you. Remember,
Yeah.
they might say the role is removed, but if it's a company that is in Lagos or whatever, they want to be sure that if push comes to shove, or they need to, maybe there's a bug or something. Okay, you're not a developer. There's something they need everybody to come to work to solve. That you'll be reachable and you're able to come. So if you're applying for jobs in certain cities, putting Ilorin, Nigeria might shoot you feet on the feet. So I'll just advise that you remove it, especially if you know yeah, you can it's dicey because it shouldn't be without a location. But what I would advise is actually what I'll say if you have someone in Lagos or if you have someone in these cities that you're applying for, just ask them for their address. Not like you can just put Lagos, Nigeria because you have someone there. So that if they ask you to provide an address, you have someone's address that you can use, right? But if you're applying to jobs in other places, then you can just use the location of these places and you can start with it. Then your skills and interests, it shouldn't be the first thing after your header. Future
Okay.
product shouldn't be the first thing. You don't have a career summary, which is a red flag. What have you done? Even if you're still working, even if you're still learning, rather, what are you looking for in your next role? What are you good at? Maybe you can say, I am I don't know, whatever English you have to do for this English. I am an asito, I'm an analytical data professional who is skilled in the use of Power BI, Python, is it Tableau, what you people call it, to sort, arrange, analyze, and kiniko large bulk of data. I am looking to work with an organization that XYXD this between 4 to 5 lines, and you're good to go. You should always have a career summary. These skills and interests, which
Okay.
is just starter, featured product shouldn't be the next thing. Future project after your header. This should go last. Then after career summary, work experience. Are you seeing that that line is even dividing your work experience into two? Right? And a data analyst, I want them,
Okay. The line.
yeah, that is cutting through that work experience. I get what you're trying to
Yes.
do, but what you could have done is immediately you do work experience and the line starts. It shouldn't start before the work experience because it's dividing that stuff into, right? And to me as a recruiter, what I would say is this person says a data analyst and he's not seeing that this thing is obstructing. Is he really an analytical person? And analytical skills are things that recruiters look out for. So what I would advise you to do is even there's no need to even make use of this vertical line. Instead, once you put work experience, use a horizontal line underneath work experience, right? And
Okay.
then the first thing is I will share. a CV sample with Toby done, but not right now because I need to block out, personal details of that person. I'm going to show a CV sample so that if you need to build out yours, you can use that CV. So you can just remind Toby to remind me by Monday. I don't do it over the weekend. So Monday,
Yeah.
you can just yeah. But just right after work experience, use a horizontal line and then the name of the company first, right? Underneath it, your role, then at the left hand side of it, it can now be when you started and when you ended. So once we're done with yours, I'll share an old CV of mine. It's old, so you don't look at the content, but just to show you what a CV format should look like, right? And then when you
Yeah.
started and ended, and I like that you use bullet points and what you achieved, right? And your responsibilities also. And then the second work experience in the same format, the name of the company, underneath it, your role in that company, and then on the far side of it, on the not too far from it, but not too close, right? Then when you
Mm.
started versus when you ended, and then your responsibilities and your achievements in bullet points. And then I like see the way you used a horizontal line for certification and education. That's the same horizontal line you should have used under your work experience.
Okay.
You get, yeah. And then are you saying that you're not consistent? This one you use horizontal line, this one you won't use vertical line, won't your CV. So that's like the same thing. You have to be very
I
uh,
really, I told you I just like copied and pasted it. So that's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. And then
And again,
um
my skill is not like even like most of the things you are saying on this place now.
mm,
They are not even what I do now because I've this was like let's say 1 year and some months.
pretty cool. Yeah.
Yes. So and what is here is just let's say the past. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Yes.
get that. So I wouldn't advise you to put your skills and projects before education and certification, right? Because we're in the tech field, and most times what I'm not like education and certification is not important, but we're more in a skill-based, right? So I don't even care if you have 1,000 certifications. You have it, you cannot do one single thing. What's my business with that? So let your skills, also come before um your education and certification. And then put the same consistent patterns, the same horizontal line, skills and competencies, a horizontal line under it. And then, the skills you have, you can list them, technical skills, whatever, and then you write them. I've shared even for my, because if I'm saying it, I know that it's highly theoretical and you might not be able to relate to most things. And then
Yeah.
technical skills, then soft skills, semicolon, you leave them out and use like commas to differentiate them. And then underneath it, maybe you can have projects and then a link to the projects that you've done again, which is very like important. The projects, you don't even have to tell long story. Projects can be kini websites or whatever, and then you can just link it. And then the other one you can see, maybe it's an e-commerce website. The first one can be an e-commerce website for an SME whatever, an SME business or whatever. Then you link it, just one line description of what that project is about and a link to it. Then your education and certification, and kudos, you don't put referees. Don't put referees on your CV unless they request for it. And your CV shouldn't be more than 2 pages. So I think you want yours is one. But you seeing the mistake you have, it's showing 2 pages, but there's nothing on the second page. So just
Yes.
always ensure that you extra pages and whatnot. So I think that's it. Like I said, I can help you review, but there are people I promise and I've not done it in 2 weeks. So I can't really promise that. But maybe you can work on it and you can share with me in some weeks. Put in my email in the chat box. So just work on it and share. I won't do it for you. Just implement some of the feedback and let me see
Yes.
what you come up with.
I'll do that. I'll do that.
All right.
Thank you so
So I think,
much.
yeah, you're welcome. I think I can just share my old one just to provide some context around. You can stop sharing. Provide some context around it should look like. So just give me a minute. Let me get it. Let me just get it. I'm trying to look for it. I haven't applied to a job in I haven't even looked at that in a long while. But let me get for it formally. Um, so just a minute. Okay. So I'm just going to share my screen so we can all see. Um, so let me know if what you're seeing is my CV. It's an old CV, right? Can you see my CV? My screen is like a CV that is showing. So context is very old. But why I'm sharing it is just to put some extra layer of meaning to what I explained, Hassan. So can you see it? Is it a CV that is showing? You can unmute and let me know.
Yes, please.
Yeah,
Your
sorry,
CV shows.
I thought I was unmuted though. Sorry.
Oh,
I've been
all
answering since.
right, thank you. So first of all, you notice the error with this my CV. It's not justified, So first of all, you also have to ensure that your CV is justified, kind of, right? So interesting. Actually is. So are you seeing how my own did start from the end as yours did? I can even like shift it again to the middle of the page, and then I can shift this again, and then I can shift this again, right? So this CV is something I did for ages. So I'm just sharing it so you can see some context. You can see that it doesn't even have my portfolio and all of that. It's an old CV. But I was just trying to show you why I did it. And I use my middle name and my first name and not my surname because I was at that time I was applying more to foreign jobs and I didn't want my surname to throw people off, right? So Jennifer is an English name that everybody around the world will know. That was why I used it first. I was just being strategic about positioning and then my surname. But if you're applying in local context, anyone you want can come first. But I specifically did this because of the kind of companies I was applying to at that time, right? And then I put in my career objective, which is very important. And then I put in my skills. Well, I told you your skills shouldn't come first, but there's a way I also put it in a way that is not covering my work experience or whatnot. So you can see all of this and you can see all of this. So everything I've done, once again, as I told you, the name of the company first, when I started the job to when I ended, and then what I did for them. So I put in that I was a community manager and it was full time. And then, as you can see, I have my numbers, and this was not forged. I have, if they ask me, I can pull it out anytime. I can show them a sheet where I have it. No, I also let them know in how did this do application over time. There's a sheet that can show them that I have 70 here, I have 70. I'm not changing my mouth. I said over 70, and then I have 70 plus. So the same thing, but presented in different ways and whatnot. And then every other achievement I did, I wrote and it was first on search engine result page and it brought them this and that, and then all of that and all of that, downright to everything I did. Here, I even put if it's part-time, if it's full-time, just signaling to the recruiter that I've worked, in different scenarios and I'm able to thrive in like whatever. So it's also like community management here, but instead of full-time as the first one, this is part-time. And I let them know that with zero marketing spend, I organically increased membership from 14,000 to 16, as in I gave exact numbers. And I have the screenshot. That's even grown more than that now. But as when I did this CV, that was like how I increased it in like a year organically, right? And then I also like if I tell them what I did, I tell them how I was able to achieve it. So context again, don't just throw numbers around and all of that. And I said I did engagement, how I introduced this, that, and all. And then don't mind this one that went to the last page. What I also did here. And then a pro tip always, if you're submitting your CV, don't download in Google Form. Always download as PDF. Because if you download as Microsoft Word, your CV will scatter. Sometimes it scatters, but PDF will never ever scatter. So whatever you're doing, even if you use Google Docs or you use Microsoft Word to work on it, always download as PDF. Don't mind my formatting is, but this should enter another page. But the same thing I told you. Just always ensure, and it's 3 pages somewhere. I'll trim all those unnecessary information. And then certification. I have other certifications, but I only put this community MBA because it's related to the role I was applying for, either a community programs role or a community management role. So this is just to show you how a good CV should look like. So yeah, that's more like it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Mhm.
I am going to do that and I'm going to send it to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe you can go back from here.
Sorry, what did you say?
No, I've spoken to Toby. I don't know if Toby's still on the call.
Okay.
I think he has left. I think he has left. All right. No problem. Thanks, everyone. I put my email in the chat box again. So as I said, I'm not going to lie, I don't really have so much time to like sit and review with you. But what I can do is if you work on your CV, you can share with me. So I can take a second eye at it, and I can also share with someone else from our talent team who can maybe give even more specific details or corrections to it. But I will definitely get back in like 2 weeks after you share so that I can have enough time to go through and share the relevant parties. But you can always email me with any questions you have on your CV or maybe your career journey. If you have more than 5 years of experience, I can't help you because I have between 5 years of experience. If you have, early stage and up to like 5 years, you can ask me anything, maybe not so technical. I'm not a data analyst, but I will be able to help with, other aspects of the job search. So thank you, everyone, and see you next week, Friday. We have these sessions throughout the month of July. Next week, we're going to be tackling the issue of interviewing. And then for our last part, we're going to be talking about a topic I don't even like talking about, but I know it's necessary, which is on the whole personal branding and whatnot. So don't forget to join. Same link, the same time next week, Friday. And yeah, invite your friends, whether they are part of the community or not. I hope that's acceptable by Toby. And your community body also. Thanks, everyone, and email me if you have further questions, and I'll definitely respond. Have a great evening. Bye. Why is everyone silent?
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Chisholm.
Yeah, oh, Toby is back. Bye.